I'm Mrs. Levac and welcome back to Mrs. Levac's Mathmania channel. And today this video is going to focus on common errors that students make involving order of operations with integers or using BEDMAS. And so we're just going to review order of operation, the order of BEDMAS. And the B stands for brackets. Often you'll see curved brackets or squared brackets. In what we're going to be working with, we're going to be seeing the curved brackets around a negative integer, and the square bracket will have an operation inside to perform. The E stands for exponents, and we're going to be seeing only like the power of 2 for us because that's all we've worked on so far in grade 8. Then there's the D and the M for division and multiplication, and these are grouped together because if you have both of them in the problem or in the question, you're going to solve whatever comes first from left to right. And this is also true for addition and subtraction. If you have both addition and subtraction in the same problem, you need to solve whatever comes first from left to right. And so the first common error we see students make is not following the order of BEDMAS. And for one example is sometimes I see students just solving everything from left to right, no matter what the operation is. And so for this example, we're going to look at 7 plus -1 times -3. And so if the student is solving everything from left to right, they would start with the addition, 7 plus -1, to get 6 times the -3 to get -18. But we know this isn't correct. To do this properly, if you look at BEDMAS, the word multiplication comes before addition. So they should be solving the multiplication first. And then recording 7 plus -1 times -3 is +3, so it would be 7 plus 3, which equals 10, and there's your correct answer. For the next example, often we see students solving adding and subtracting in word order, but not in the order, if it's in the same problem, not solving it left to right. So that's what we're going to look at for this example. And so here you have addition and subtraction and division does come first, so that's what often I would see students do. And recording 8 take away 3 plus +4, because -4 divided by -1 is 4. And here, this is where we would see the students make mistake. A does become before S in the word BEDMAS, but you do have to solve them in order from left to right if you have both. But sometimes students forget that, and I would see them move on to addition. So we would see 8 take away 3 plus 4 is what would get solved first, and you would get 8 take away 7. And then when that gets added or subtracted, you would get 1. But this isn't correct. In order for this to be done properly, you would still do your dividing first to get 8 take away 3 plus 4, but using that rule, solving what comes first left to right with addition and subtraction, we would actually be solving the subtraction first. So you would do 8 take away 3 to get 5, and then 5 plus 4 is 9. There's your correct answer. For the next common error, it's often seeing students changing the order of the numbers and operations. So it comes down to students not copying down the problem exactly from what they saw from the previous step. And so in this question, we're going to see 4 is being 4 taking away 5 plus -11 in brackets. So the proper order of operation is to complete our brackets first, 5 plus -11. But often I see students just write that answer down and forget to write the 4 plus in front and then just tag it at the back. And so now it becomes -6, take away 4. Using our integer rules, we're going to change it to adding the opposite. And so -6 plus -4 is -10. But this isn't correct. So completing this problem, you would still solve the brackets first, but when you're writing it down, you have to record the 4 takeaway first, the -6, because this is in front, it has to stay in front. It has to stay in the exact same place. Use your rule for adding the opposite, and we end up with +10 as the answer. On the next one, often you see students using the wrong rules for the operation. This is especially true when we have integers and there's so many rules to keep track of, especially when subtracting. So for this example, we're going to look at subtracting and students not adding the opposite. Often students just think adding and that's it. So we're going to look at -18 divided by -6, subtract -4. So you would do the dividing first and end up with 3, take away -4, and this is where students just think adding, and 3 plus -4 is -1, and that's what they would think and write. Where really when they got to this step of 3 take away -4, you really need to change the subtracting to adding and a -4 to a +4 and get 7 as the final answer. The other example that we're going to look at, the last one, is using multiplying rules when adding. So sometimes you see multiplying rules applied, especially when you have two negatives of the same side. They'll change the answer to positive, and it's just instead of adding more negatives. So for this example, we're going to look at -6 plus -4, subtract -2. Now our order of operations says when we have adding and subtracting, we solve whatever comes first left to right, which is the adding. And so this is where we'll often see the mistake that students will add 6 and 4 and get 10, but because they see two negatives, they think the answer is going to be a +10 instead of a -10. And then record or write down your subtract -2, change it to add the opposite, use your add the opposite rule here, and you get 12 as an answer. But this isn't correct. So what you would do here is get -10 when you combine your negatives, because 6 negatives and 4 negatives is just 10 more negatives. Still subtract your -2, change your rule to add the opposite. Really, you don't need to change your rule to add the opposite here because it's just 2 negatives taking away from 10 negatives. It's just straight subtraction really to get -8. Well, I hope this video kind of helps to keep in mind of some common errors that you could make when you're solving order of operation, especially when integers are involved. Hope you have success, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.